Alright, so we're converting a 99 through 02 Camaro harness to work with a 96 LT1 Camaro. Now, to get this to work, you're going to have the LS harness only has 2 plugins. The LT1 has these plugins plus a black one underneath the dash. So you're going to have this black plug-in. And I still had my LT1 harness, so I just took it off there. So on the LS1 harness, there's this big purple wire. The big purple wire is the starter wire. But on the LS1 harness, it ran from the solenoid, the starter solenoid, up to above the strut tower, shock tower, wheel well on the passenger side, wherever you want to call that, up by these 3 plug-ins. And then it had its own plug-in that it plugged in that went to the engine bay fuse box, from what I'm assuming. That's not how the LT1 works. The LT1, the starter comes out from below the dash. It comes out from below the dash on this connector, which is pin A. And that's the, I forget what that connector is called, but anyway. That purple wire goes straight to the starter solenoid. It comes up and around and down, and it goes straight to the starter solenoid. I just took it off my LT1 harness. Now, there's a ground. This is the ground for the fuel pump. It just needs to be grounded. It doesn't matter where. But I just ran it in line with this ground. I don't know what that ground's for. It doesn't tell me. It just tells me it's a ground on the pinouts that I've looked up online. Now, there is a fuel pump relay. This is a fuel pump relay too. But this, on the LT1, it just went over to the strut tower, shock tower, wheel well on the passenger side and just hung out, so you could manually prime the fuel pump. This little thing right here, which is cool and good to have for trying to figure out fueling issues. So I'm going to keep that. Now this orange one in pin C, and this is the PCM bat. This is from the PCM bat fuse. It fed to the LT1 computer to feed it 12 volts. So I grounded the fuel pump right there. I just grounded it with this one. All those grounds come up in this harness and they all meet, like right here. See, and they meet in this block and then they come out as one wire. There's even one wire coming out this side and going back. I don't know why they did that, but these grounds come up and then they go to these grounds that go to the back of the head. There were 3 of these. I was able to eliminate one of them because the EVAP, the AIR, the O2 sensors, the transmission, I took all that, the MAF sensor, I took all that stuff off because I'm not going to be using that. This car's going to be running on speed density. And they all went into one of these ground blocks. See, there's another ground block right here. They all went into these ground blocks. And then I didn't need any of the grounds that went to that block that went up to one of these plugins because I removed them all. So didn't need that anymore. So I'm just going to piggyback off this one because this one just comes up and it comes in. Actually, it's this black and white wire right here that goes into the front of the fuse block. Why it goes in the front of it and then comes back this way is beyond me. But hopefully this gauge wire is big enough to support whatever this on, whatever this on. Now, this is just a relay. I'm assuming it's a relay either in the fuse block in the car, behind the dash, or in the car, inside the car fuse box, or one of the relays in the no, it'd have to be one of them in the car because all this comes back here. All right, now, so to power the fuel pump, there's red pin 9, which is that green and white wire up beside the white one. It comes over here to pin D on this C101 connector that's on the LS1 harness. So we need to take that wire, and it needs to come down to this wire. And let me see what our pinout says. One moment. It says it needs to go to C220, which is the white one. Dark green and white, J, fuel pump relay control. So that's where we're going to send it. White J. Alright, so this is the C220, the white one. So we find J, and we're going to run this red pin 9 that goes to D, and C101, we're going to run it to J in this white connector. So the J was the yellow with the black stripe. I found it on the under end of the harness. It's actually the only yellow wire in the bunch. So I found it coming out the other end right here, which that's just all the harness. It wraps back out and all of them come out right there. So all these wires here and this white and blue are all these wires right here. So now this also went to C101. It went to one of the anti-theft things or something like that. And this is pin 9 from the red connector. So we're going to put those together, and that's going to match this up with the fuel pump relay. That's a fuel pump relay control. This one's a fuel pump relay control too. That red one. But yeah, let's blast those together real quick, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright, C220 connector, white connector, J goes to pin 9 on the red connector. And both of these, pin 9 went to C101 originally, and so did J from the C220 went to C101. But all you need to know is pin 9 to white connector J. And when you're doing the alphabet on these, because this plug-in gets in the way, this latch for the plug-in gets in the way, there is no I. So it's A, B, C, D, E on this side, and then F, G, H, F, G, H, J, K. So that's J. And then, yeah, let's see what's next. That does it for the fuel pump and the starter. So now we'll see what's next. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, like I said, we got the starter and the fuel pump. That's all taken care of. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to wire in the gauges. Now, most of the gauges on an LT1 go to this white plug-in under the dash, which is the C220, I think it was. Yep, the white C220. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is do the oil pressure, speed sensor, and tachometer. I already found the oil pressure wire. So this one comes down, and we're going to try to find it down here. It's a light tannish brown wire. There it is. That's the only one right there, which is, let's zoom in on this. I can't see. That should be pin A. It is. So pin A. Alright. And we're just going to confirm that. Something I wanted to mention here real quick. When you see these black diagrams right here, These are the diagrams for the LS harness itself. You'll see some pictures of just like this, but they're in solid white. Those are the ones for the LT1 car, for the car itself, the plugins under the dash and the ones on the shock tower and stuff like that. The main thing of this is you want to line up the LS harness with what's on the car so everything works right. C220, 10, oil pressure indicator lamp output. So we need that one. This is the C220. Let's turn this light off, that might help. So we need C220 oil pressure feed instrument cluster right there. We need to go that. We need to get that to go to C. So we need to move that from A to C, because that's the generator. So move that from A to C. Yeah. See, oil level feed to instrument cluster. Move A to C. All right, since we're going to move this, we're just going to repin it. We're going to pop A out, pop C out, and flip those, or put A and C for now anyway. Now to repin these, you got to take this gray thing off the top. There's little clamps on the side that you push in right here. Look, push in, disengage that, push this side in, it should pop out. So I'll push this side in, push this up, then push this side in, push that up, and that should. The lip is on the left side, so we need to push down on this left side, unclip it off that lip, see the lip in the blank hole, and then we can pull it through. So I'm going to put a toothpick down in there, and I'm going to push it forward a little bit, and I'm going to push the toothpick down, and then I'm going to pull it back through. And I'm going to move A to C, which is our oil pressure. And then I don't know what we're going to do to C for now, but we'll figure that out later. Alright, so now you get a better idea how that latched. I had to use a sewing needle. But there's the latch right there where my finger's pointing. And then down the big hole goes the prong from the other connector. But yeah, we're going to stick that in tan and C. So I messed up on the tan one. C is actually the oil level sensor. B is the oil pressure, so we need to move that over to B. Tan to B. Where do we take it from? A? Yeah, we took it from A, so oil pressure goes from A to B. My bad. Alright, we're still looking at the white under the dash connector, C220. And you'll see right here, dark green white, vehicle speed signal. Dark green white. And then over here, vehicle speed signal. So we need that to go to G. So K to G. And G is empty on this one. So we'll just take out K and move it over to G. I really need that app where you can record your computer screen, but anyway, I took screenshots of all the connectors, C100, C101, C105, C220, and C230 for the LS, and then down here for the LT1, I took a screenshot, and this come from LT1swap.com. This come from shbox.com, shoebox. And I took a screenshot of the C100, C105, C210, C220, and C230 connectors. And then, well, I know y'all can't see that, but then what I did was I made this little chart. So the left column's LT1, the right column's LS1. So C105, LT1, C105, LS1. I couldn't find the tax signal, so what I did, and I did that for all these connectors all the way down through here. So what I did was I did Control F and then topped in tack, and then boom, there we go. And then I got the pinouts for the LS harness here. So it looks like red connector 10 is the engine speed signal. And then that goes to the C105 shock tower connector G. See if we can focus on that. And then it's red connector pin 10. So it goes from red connector pin 10 on LS1, then it goes to the CO15G. So we need to take that out and run that to under the dash to C230D, which is the blue connector. So if we look at the red connector, and everything's always upside down. There it is. Red connector 10, it's supposed to have been a white. So that should go over to C105, and then we'll grab that and we'll trace it over and see if it does go to C105. Now I mark these right there, C105. There's two white connectors on here, but it was pin G, I believe. Is that what we said? Yeah, right there, pin G. So that one needs to run down to this blue connector. And all these screenshots I took, this is the C105 connector for the LS. Right there, tachometer white G. And then the screenshot for the C230 blue on the LT1 under the dash harness. Where did it go? Right there. Tachometer instrument signal D, which is a white wire. So D white wire needs to go over to G on this one. Right there, G. We're just going to cut it right here. Alright, we just cut it out, because those pins ain't going to fit the other pins. I wouldn't think they would anyway. They might. It doesn't matter, the wire's not long enough. But anyway, that's number 9. Just gotta check, and double check. It won't focus. Well, it focused for a minute. Number 9. Or number 10. It was number 10, I'm sorry. Alright, so we got that. Now we need to find the white connector in this one. And then trace it back, and we'll find it up here, where it comes out up here. And then we'll just splice it in here. It's just a little bit easier. Alright, so the LS1 blue connector didn't have a pin D, so I took it out of my LT1 harness. And then red connector 10 right there. And then we're going to run this around from the blue connector D and hook it to that one, to red pin 10. And that's for the tachometer signal. Alright, next thing to do is the engine coolant temp sensor. Now, supposedly the 99 through 02 sensor reads different than a 98 down. It just reads in a different way. It goes through the, on 99 through 02, it goes through the body control module or something like that, or blah, blah, blah. Anyway, a 98 down, and especially my 96, doesn't read that way. So what we have to do is we have to put a 3-wire connector in this, and then use a 98. We're going to have to put a 98 engine coolant temp sensor in the vehicle. And just a 3-prong connector. It's pretty much the same as the one that you would use for the throttle position sensor. And I actually took one off of here that went to the AC pressure line to read the AC pressure line. I don't know where I set it. Yeah, I set it over here. Nope. Well, I set it somewhere. Oh, here it is. Losing track stuff. So this was the one I took off of this harness for the AC pressure line. That's why I marked all these. But anyway, I'm going to use this one. So we're going to line up the black and yellow. Whoops, don't get those confused, because some of these sensors are the same. See, the air intake temperature sensors, I mean, it's a different color, but it's the same connector as but it's a black and yellow wire. Well, that one's black and yellow too, but anyway, what we're going to do, and we're going to trace these back just to double check to make sure that I got the right sensor. I'll trace this back to the connectors on the ECM, find the pin number, look that pin number up on the chart, and make sure I got the right one before I do any cutting. But anyway, this is A and B. I'm going to line A and B up with this, which this is A on the right hand side, this is B on the left hand side, and then C is the bottom, and we're going to run that to our engine coolant temp sensor in the dash, which should go to one of these plugins. Alright, so we trace that wire back, and that's 71, 72, 73, 74. It's that yellow wire right there. So that would be 74. Now let's look at the pinouts and see if that's in fact the engine coolant temperature. And then there we go, 74 yellow, engine coolant temp sensor signal. So we have in fact confirmed that this is the engine coolant temp sensor, and I've already confirmed that, but check and double check. So we're going to go ahead and cut this one. We're going to find A and B. We're going to get the 3-prong. We're going to line these wires back up with A and B, and then we're going to run a separate wire out of C. I'm just checking these off the old connector. So black is A, yellow is B. Then on our new connector, B is this, I don't know what color that is, but it's this one right here. I just use these little connectors. I got these at Summit, but you just put one wire in this end, one wire in this end, make sure the wires overlap. Under this right here, the solder part where my thumb's at, and I just heat it up with a lighter, or you can use a heat gun, but I just use a lighter, and it melts all this, and it wraps the wire and solders it at the same time. Pretty cool. And then looking at our pinout from shbox.com, short for shoebox, it looks like coolant temperature feed is K on C220, which is the white one. So we need to run that C from the engine coolant temp connector all the way down to the white K. So I'm going to have to grab some wire for that. Alright, so the C from the engine coolant temp sensor plug-in, that 3-prong that we put on, it's got to come all the way back here to K on C220. Now the LS1 C220 does not have a K. So I stole this one off of the LT1 harness. So if you guys don't have a spare LT1 harness when you're doing this, you're going to have to get some of these. This is like 22, 24 gauge wire, and you're going to have to get some of these pins that fit these C220 and C230 connectors. But anyway, I made the wire long enough that it's going to come all the way around. I had to use a couple of different wires because I'm just using leftover stuff from what I took off of this harness and from the LT1 harness. So I'll put this in K. See, and just cross-referencing K, coolant temperature feed to instrument color cluster. So this is K under the dash, so we need to line it up with that one. All right, we got that all wired in. 3-prong connector for engine coolant temp sensor. It looks like that. A to A and B to B from what was already on there. And then C at the bottom. You run all the way back around, down through here, back down to here, and then YC220K. Alright, that's the engine coolant temp sensor. Alright, on the alternator wire, it's this red one. It comes all the way back, around, and then it goes to red 15 on this connector. Now this one you have to splice into it because it still has to go to the computer. But it also needs to go to C220 pin A. So we're going to run C220A and splice it into here. So it's going to go to the computer, to the gauge, or to the computer, to the connector on the alternator, and it's going to go down to C220 on A. Alright, out of the blue connector on the PCM 58, that's your serial data wire for your OBD diagnostic port to work. Now the 95, the 96, and 97 LT1 have the OBD2. So you're pretty much set up on that except for this one wire. So it goes from blue PCM connector 58, and then it comes to C230K. But now on the LT1, we need that on C230C. So we need to move K to C. Alright, so blue connector PCM 58. I moved down here to C230 on connector C. And that, there was one already plugged in there, so, and that was just for the emission stuff, so we'll leave that off. Alright. Alright, so blue connector, these orange wires 20 and 57, they need to go to a constant power source. And if you wire those around, it comes to this block. It comes out of this block and it goes up to C101. So those need constant power. So the only constant power I know, this is the Pcm Battery Wire that went to the LT1. It went to 2 different spots. This orange one to power the PCM off this black connector that goes under the dash, the orange wire. So I'm going to cut this wire out that went to 20 and 57. Alright, so basically what we're going to do here is we're going to run C210 black connector, pin C. We're going to run that up to blue connector 20 and 57. But like I said, these go together and then go over to this block and then come out and go up to this C101 connector right here. Yeah, so we're going to cut that out and we're going to run it to this pin C on the black connector here that goes under the dash. And these next few things we're doing, this is to power the PCM, the cools, the injectors, stuff like that. So also remember, the 96 Camaro, it don't have this third wheel well connector, this C101. So most of these power wires, we gotta find a different spot for them. Any of the power wires that are going to this one that normally would have come off the LS1 car. We don't have this connector, so these have to go somewhere else. Alright, the next one that needs power is 19, which is this pink wire. All the pink and orange wires are power. All the pink and orange wires are power. So let's figure out where that one goes. So that one also went to this C101 connector, so we're going to cut that off, because remember the LT1 don't have the C101 connector. Oh, also that blue 19 PCM, it's that's for the ignition, so it needs to be a switched power source. And we do have a switched power source down here in this white connector. It's E, the pink one. So we're probably going to move that one, move this pink wire to E, and then we're going to connect that to the pink wire where it comes out up here. So blue connector 19 to C220 to C220E. Alright, I ran that to E, but I just left the pink one there on C. I had this ground wire that I was running. It wasn't being used, so I'd already had it cut, so I just moved it over to E. I had to splice into that anyway and run it all the way around, but that's set up. And then I got rid of the C105 connector because there's nothing else left on here except for these two, and these were cruise control, so that's gone. That's good. So I've went through these plugins 3 times to make sure everything was right, and it is. Everything's correct there. So now we just need to make sure everything's correct on these strut tire plugins, C100 and C105. Okay, so I told you wrong. The C100 and the C105 that I eventually took off is the ones we need. The C101 is the one we don't need. I'm going to figure out what wires are going to that and see if we can get rid of that. So here are the 2 connectors that are needed on the wheel well, strut tower, shock tower, whatever you want to call that. The 10-pin one, that's the C100, and then the 8-pin one, that's the C105. Alright, so I believe I left off, I haven't worked on this in a few days. So, I believe I left off on these connectors that connect on the passenger side, shock tower. This is your C100. Now this one right here, pretty much all the connections match up to all the connections on the car on the LT1 C100, but this was a power wire, and it is on the LT1 car harness as well, but we ran this down under the dash. But the B and the C, that's the A is already lined up to a power wire. The B and the C were AC compressor. I cut those because I'm not using that. The C and D, I forgot what those were for, but those weren't needed. I went ahead and cut those. And then the G and J, I'm sorry, the H and J right here and here, those do the fans, and it's the same as the LT1 harness. Now, so we got this extra hot wire. So it looks like there's only one hot wire on here that needs power. We could actually run that one over here, but we have to make those run to here. So hopefully it looks like those pins will be the same, so we can just pin this around. But and I also need to see what these are, but we need to get these and this, because the LT1 harness on the car, it don't have a C101. It only has a 105 8-pin and a 100, which is a 10-pin. So, but this one's done, and we got an extra wire. The K can even be taken off of here, but the K on the LT1 harness, it don't go to nothing, so I'm just gonna leave that one on there. But all the rest of these are all cut off except for the fans. Well, this one don't matter. That one's K. And there's H and J. And then a power source wire. And then we have this extra power source wire. And that power source wire actually lines up with the harness in the LT1 harness as well. So we can use that extra if we need it. But we got to make sure that we supply everything with power. And typically, all these pink and red wires, and even the orange wires, they're mostly the pink and the orange. Those are hot wires. They need to go to something. But let's figure out what this C105 or 101. This C101 needs to go to on the 105. We was able to get rid of the 105 harness on this one, so this is all we got left. But we need to move what's left on this over to this. All right, so basically what I did was I took the C101B and I put it in this 8-pin black connector for B, and that's our power. So really all I got running to the strut tower, shock tower, wheel well tower, whatever you want to call it, is a power wire there, a power wire there, and the fans. I hooked the fans up anyway. Mine don't work. I've got something else wired in to control the fans, but I want to try to figure that out and get the computer working again. So everything else, and this is cruise control stuff and a bunch of other stuff we're not going to use. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to go put it on the car and see if it works. Now there is more to do if you're running, you know, the automatic transmission and stuff like that. But, you know, this is just bare bones for drag racing. I will drive it on the street, but not a whole lot. But it's going to be open loop speed density tune. It's not using the O2 sensors, not using the MAF. I got a turbo 400 transmission, etc. So that's what I've got. Hopefully it works. Y'all like and subscribe and have a great day. I'm not going to post this video until I hook it up and the car actually runs.